Sometimes just being yourself doesn't feel like enough. Everyone has moments during which they wish they could just be someone else for a while. Someone more successful, more popular, more athletic. But alas, such wishes are forever out of reach. Unless you're the protagonist from one of the games on this list. That is, as these guys can assume direct control of another's psyche with ease. Lucky sods. Whether it's thanks to scarily advanced hacking technology or more spiritual or mystical means. The games we're about to discuss will see characters hopping from person to person quicker than an outbreak of nits in a school assembly. If the old saying that you can't really understand someone unless you've walked a mile in their shoes is true, then these guys must be some of the most understanding people around. That doesn't mean said powers don't come with some disturbing connotations though. More on that later. Anyway, I'm actually Peter from Triple Jump inhabiting Ashton's body, don't tell anyone, and here are 10 games in which you have to possess to progress. Number 10, Geist. Imagine a soldier who is also a ghost. He can go invisible, he can possess people, he could easily bypass security systems, sneak undetected into top secret bases, and take over the minds of the nearest armed henchmen when the fighting gets started. He'd be unstoppable, untouchable, invincible. Geist bad guy Alexander Volks certainly understands the benefits of such a thing. This GameCube first-person shooter / ghost 'em up kicks off with Volks attempting to remove protagonist John Raimi's soul and brainwash him into becoming a ghostly super soldier. Luckily, only half his plan comes to fruition. Now Mr. Volks has a rogue spook on his hands. This all results in an FPS game in which players can indulge in a bit of body surfing, inhabiting guards, engineers and animals to explore and interact with the game world. You can even haunt the ladies' shower room and possess shower heads. Good lord. Who'd have thought a game about forced soul removal would be so creepy? Number 9, Oddworld, Abe's Odyssey. Throughout most of Oddworld Abe's Odyssey, players control Abe, a Mudokon who's trying to escape the gigantic meatpacking factory Rupture Farms. Abe is a meek and passive little fellow at first, and can do very little to defend himself from aggressors. Just traversing the various locations is treacherous enough, and when heavily armed Slig guards get involved, poor Abe doesn't stand a chance. Except he does have one powerful trick up his sleeve. Using some mighty mystical mind powers, Abe can leave his body and possess nearby Sligs, giving him complete control. He is then free to stomp around on metal legs, go anywhere he pleases, deactivate locks and security systems, and even gun down other Sligs with automatic weaponry. It's a welcome break from tiptoeing everywhere. Unfortunately, the enemy gets wise to these possession abilities and has deployed floating, chant-suppressing orbs that will zap Abe with electricity if he tries to use his mind powers nearby. This means that he can't actually rely on possession much at all, and he'll usually have to rely on his brain instead. Actually, he'll have to rely on my brain. That's even worse. I'm so sorry, Abe. Number 8, Mindjack. Possession isn't just for ghosts, demons, and mystical alien things, you know. Sufficiently advanced technology can also do the trick. And that, my friends, is a terrifying thought. Japanese developer Feel Plus dwelled on that thought a lot when they came up with this dystopian third-person shooter. Mindjack treated us to a world in which shady, corrupt corporations are developing technology that can hack into vehicles, robots, and even people. Players take on the role of government agent Jim Corbijn. Corbijn? We'll just go with Jim, as he tries to take these corporations down. Throughout Mindjack's campaign, Agent Jim can commandeer enemies and civilians alike. Unlike in Abe's Odyssey, where Abe stands around uselessly while he's in possession of another creature, Jim will continue to act, firing and taking cover, while the player is busy controlling a possessed host, which raises questions in itself. If Jim's consciousness is inside the person the player's controlling, then who's controlling Jim? Let's just call it gameplay and story segregation and leave it at that. Mindjack also offered a cool multiplayer mode, in which other players could drop into your campaign, assume control of an enemy, and proceed to either help or hinder your progress as they see fit. Sounds like a surefire way to infuriate your friends. Sign me up. Number 7, Super Mario Odyssey. One of the few titles on this list that proves that even family-friendly games can have a possession mechanic. Super Mario Odyssey has the world-famous plumber getting in on the body-swapping action. In Mario's foremost Switch outing, he enlists the help of Cappy, a sentient hat that can be tossed onto enemies for a bit of wholesome mind control, offering up tons of options for progression and puzzle solving. Is that moon you're after on a ledge that's too high up? Capture a nearby frog and leap to new heights. Need to breathe underwater? Capture one of those cheap fish things and swim as long as you want to. Need to cause a ruckus? capture a Firebro and unleash fiery havoc in all directions. The game even keeps track of the creatures and things you've captured so that you can make sure you've possessed absolutely everything. If you try to look a bit too deeply into the relationship between Mario and Cappy though, it's actually a bit unsettling. The hat transplants Mario's consciousness into the host, allowing the plumber to dominate its mind and gain total control. It's a bizarre and ungodly combination of parasitism and symbiosis, and considering that many of the entities that Mario can capture are clearly sentient, it's completely unethical too. Controlled creatures do get a funny mustache though, so I guess everything's fine. Number 6, Avenging Spirit. Avenging Spirit, or Phantasm as it's known in Japan, is a colourful arcade game released by Jellicoe in 1991. It takes the rather sinister premise of a vengeful spirit possessing the bodies of the living in order to go on a murderous rampage, and gives it a bright and jaunty paint job with cute anime-style sprites and upbeat toe-tapping tunes. Also, look how happy the little spooky boy is. He's absolutely loving it. Despite its cuddly exterior, there is a tragic backstory to Avenging Spirit. Our hero was out walking with his girlfriend when they were ambushed by a gang of criminals. These good-for-nothing baddies killed the protagonist there and then, and kidnapped his girlfriend for their nefarious purposes. It's hauntingly similar to the backstory of The Crow, actually. Also like The Crow, the protagonist's girlfriend's father is a science researching ghost energy, and is able to resurrect the hero so that he can hunt down the bad guys. That's how Eric Draven is resurrected in The Crow, right? I'm not actually sure, I never finished watching it. Look, basically, Avenging Spirit is The Crow, if the main character was played by Abu and not Brandon Lee. And if you don't want to play that game, then I don't even know why we're friends. Number 5, Space Station Silicon Valley. Right, so back in 2001, a space station full of animals went into space and pretty much immediately disappeared from all sensors. Thought lost forever, it made a surprise return in the year 3000, and the animals within had evolved and combined with the machinery of the space station to form new, part mechanical life forms. The space station crash landed in New York Harbor, and its bizarre cargo escaped, threatening life on Earth as we know it. Sound bizarre? It is! Welcome to Space Station Silicon Valley. This 1998 Nintendo 64 title was developed by DMA Designs, which would later become Rockstar North. It invites players to take on the role of Evo, a robot who was heavily damaged in the crash. Reduced to little more than a crawling microchip, Evo must attempt to terminate the aforementioned rampaging cyber critters before it's too late. It's all presented in cutesy, colourful fashion, like Banjo-Kazooie, but with animals being mind-controlled against their will. Space Station Silicon Valley is one of 3 games made by DMA Designs as part of a publishing deal with BMG Interactive. Another one of the 3 was an isometric strategy game named Tactics, and the last one was the original Grand Theft Auto. Quite the variety, but only one lets you dominate the minds of cute animals. Really, the rest of their games have represented a huge step backwards in that regard, and I hope they're as disappointed as I am. Number 4, Dungeon Keeper. Dungeon Keeper was a series that finally allowed players to take control of the trap-filled, monster-infested hellhole instead of controlling the poor sod that had to try and clear it out. Represented by a floating, disembodied hand, the Dungeon Keeper has to keep his cavernous lair ticking over by managing monsters, hiring minions, and planning the layout of his sinister domain. In the game, you order your underlings to mine gold and build rooms as you fend off incursions by pesky do-gooders trying to ruin all the villainous fun. But what happens when the Dungeon Keeper wants to get a bit more hands-on? Well, players have access to the Possession spell, which enables the Dungeon Keeper's consciousness to be implanted into one of his minions. Fancy doing a bit of digging yourself? Possess an imp. Want to quickly scout for enemies or gold deposits? Dominate one of the flies and nip out for a quick recon mission. Feel the need to strut around in high heels and a PVC catsuit? Take control of a dark mistress. We won't judge. Kinky bits aside, Dungeon Keeper's use of possession is actually pretty practical, and it just goes to prove that old adage, if you want something done, do it yourself, by possessing the body of a minion who is physically better equipped to do the job, but lacks the intelligence required to do so efficiently. Words to live by. Number 3, Messiah. Messiah is a PC game from 2000 with a cyberpunk setting and a strong religious theme. Players take on the role of a cherub-like creature who has been sent by God to clear up all of humanity's sins and wrongdoings. This little fellow's name is, of course, Bob, and he's none too pleased about being sent down to mingle with us humans. And that's fine, because I'm not too happy with him being down here either. Creepy cherubs flapping about is not my idea of paradise. At least he's wearing a nappy. Or is that worse? It might be worse. When Bob is in his basic cherub form, he's pretty much defenseless. Luckily, and unsurprisingly considering the content of this video so far, Bob has the ability to possess other creatures. Players will spend most of their time hopping from human host to human host, sneaking around facilities owned by bad guy Father Prime, and sabotaging his plans. What are his plans? Oh, just summoning the devil. You know, nothing major. As a nice little touch, a faint halo appears over whoever Bob is currently possessing. I guess that's as good a way as any as figuring out which generic henchman is you. You know, it can be tough to know who you are when you could be literally anyone. Poor all-powerful cherub. No one ever thinks about your problems, do they? Number 2, Driver, San Francisco. FBI agent John Tanner is involved in a nasty accident near the beginning of Driver San Francisco. Things get a little strange after that, with Tanner waking up in the same car chasing the same criminal with an unexpected new ability. Using his super headache powers, Tanner is able to leap from his body into the drivers of nearby vehicles. An open-world driving game with possession mechanics? Why aren't there thousands of these? The ability is called shifting, and in gameplay terms it means that players can hop from vehicle to vehicle without going through the hassle of getting out of one car, walking and getting into, or hijacking another one. About time, I say. Often find myself wishing for similar powers when walking to work on chilly mornings. It's a strange tonal juxtaposition of genre styles, mixing the GTA or true crime-esque setting of the Driver series with the mystical sci-fi theme of possession. It gets even weirder when it's revealed that Tanner's nemesis, Charles Jericho, has the same powers. However, once Tanner finally wakes up from his coma, and it's revealed the whole game was played inside of his head, things come crashing back down to reality. Wait, Jericho? Oh boy, that reminds me. And number 1, Clive Barker's Jericho. As with Messiah, Clive Barker's Jericho also has a somewhat biblical feel. Unlike that game though, nothing here is particularly played for laughs. The story concerns an entity called the Firstborn, who God created before Adam and Eve, and the big guy was so disturbed by his first creation that he banished it into the abyss. Now, it's coming back. Honestly though, I'm still not sure what's creepier, the Firstborn or Bob the Cherub. The protagonist of Clive Barker's Jericho is Captain Devin Ross, part of a special forces team charged with sealing the box containing the Firstborn. Unfortunately, Ross gets killed pretty early on. Unfortunately for him, that is. But fortunately for the player, it means we get to play as his ghost, jumping from body to body as we possess and control various members of Ross's diverse team. Things are pretty bleak though, with grim locations and horrifying enemies aplenty. This game is not for the faint of heart. Still, at least Clive Barker's Jericho is open about how unpleasant the actual concept of possession is, unlike Mario Odyssey with its mustachioed dinosaurs. Doesn't matter what kind of veneer you put on it, Mario, you're still forcibly dominating another creature's consciousness Exorcist style, and that's not cool. Now go and apologise to the children. I'll wait.